The other weird thing that I need to let all the mainlanders know is with Hare Clark, there's no need for how to vote. So no one hands out on election day. That must
be the greatest thing ever. You should all try it. I know there's a lot of fellow political geeks listening, but you should all lobby a local MP, or if you are a local MP, ban handing out how to vote cards. You should have just banned it. It's so good.
What do you do all day?
We don't do anything.
The presenting sponsor for Socially Democratic is Dunn Street. Dunn Street is a campaign agency that specialises in community organising. We only work with people who want to build power to make the world a better place. And if you want to create change in 2025, then hit us up at dunnstreet.com.au. A special shout out to all of our Patreon members as well. And you can join our community for free or for as little as $1.50 a month. And you too can help support this podcast. All paid members receive a welcome gift. So if you have recently signed up, please check your inbox for a message from our producer asking for your shipping address, because without that, then we can't send you your merch. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by Maurice Blackburn Lawyers. Maurice Blackburn has been fighting for workers' rights in Australia for more than 100 years. They believe the law should serve everyone and not just those that can afford it. So for empathetic and expert legal support, call Maurice Blackburn Lawyers today. All right, let's get on with today's episode. We are taping this one on a Thursday evening on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. And everyone out there knows I love doing this podcast when there's a campaign on, and we didn't think there was going to be many more campaigns on after the Fed, but things have transpired in Tasmania that means that we've got a campaign on. And that means that we have been turning our attention to what has been happening in the Apple Isle, and we are really lucky to have someone who is a little bit busy with this particular campaign right now, because he is the opposition leader for the Tasmanian Parliamentary Labor Party, and he's joining us from his home. I think somehow we've managed to eke some time out of his schedule to come and have a chat to us. Dean Winter, welcome to Socially Democratic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I love you got your red Labor hoodie on as well. You really are.
I have, yeah. Shout out to the West Hobart branch of the Labor Party, who it's not official merch by the Labor Party, but the branch up there does themselves. So
it's merch nonetheless, and that's what we're all about. Love it. Today's this is the 10th of July. This is going up tomorrow morning at some stage, where election day is next Saturday. This is your third election campaign, but obviously the first time as a leader. How are you? How are you faring, and what kind of experience is it like compared to not being the leader of the party?
Very different, but it's exciting, and I'm energised. I feel like I'm getting more energy the closer I go, and I'm not sure quite where that's coming from. But you get to this point where you're only 8 days away from election day, and you just want to win. And our whole team does. We've been in opposition here for 11 years. So the Labor Party's had a long time out. It's a very, very bad Liberal party, government. So that's all the inspiration that we need.
And we're going to find out more about how bad that Liberal government is and what your plans are for Tasmanians in a moment. But before we do that, for folks listening to the show that don't know Dean Winter very well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like when you reflect on moments as a young person, what defined you as a young person that sort of all of a sudden found yourself wanting to, lead the state?
Well, I had a sort of what was not a lot of our Labor people have got, big, long Labor histories in their family. I didn't. I had a mum who absolutely loved Paul Keating and a dad who absolutely loved John Howard. And so I grew up in that family. I still remember the 1996 election and mum in tears and dad being happy. So I defend for myself and figure it out. And
how did you figure it out?
Well, I guess you form your own views from a family like that. I was around when Jim Bacon was the Premier of Tasmania as I was growing up, and there was a lot happening. He'd bought the Spirits of Tasmania. We were building a gas pipeline, building Basslink, an energy link to the mainland. There was a lot happening, and there was a lot of positivity, particularly around tourism. So I grew up watching Labor dominate the scene here in the state, and met a few people when I started working at Department of Treasury and Finance who were also Labor people and had a long Labor background, and just went from there. So my first campaign was working on the 1996 Tasmanian election campaign, volunteering for Paul Lennon, and then Kevin Rudd, the Kevin 07 election was, I was I must have been, 22, so pretty young, and just got the bug, and I've been involved in the Tasmanian Labor Party ever since.
Outside of politics, what normally occupies your time or your interest when you're not actually doing the campaign?
I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, and that's pretty much it. I work and my weekends. The best thing in my life at the moment is going to see. I've just come from I got back from the northwest coast just in time. I literally walked into my daughter's dancing at Stedford with 20 seconds before she got on stage and watched her dominate her hip hop act. And then on the weekends, watching my son George play footy and soccer on the weekends. That's my passion at the moment, but big AFL fan as well. Played a fair bit of cricket back in the day as well.
Nice one. What you've obviously only been in the leadership for a short period of time. You had an election. The election was last year, wasn't it?
15 months ago. That was the early election that Jeremy Rockliff called last time, and he's now called another early election. Yeah, so it's been a bit. Yeah,
and you've obviously replaced Rebecca White, who had been leader for a number of years and a number of turns. What motivated you to put your hand up and seek the leadership of the party at a time that, after the last election loss, that, things looked challenging for Labor in Tasmania?
Yeah, look, we'd lost 4 elections in a row, and it was time for a change. I had a pretty firm view on the direction that Labor needed to take in the state, and I was really lucky to have the support of my colleagues to take on the leadership. And look, I don't think any of us thought that we'd be here 15 months later contesting an election already, but I've just had so much support from them in particular and from the whole movement. Our Labor movement here has been the most united I've seen it probably since back in those days, 2006-07, when we were dominating elections. So we've got the Labor movement behind us, our Labor family, and we've got so many volunteers coming in from the mainland at the moment too. I met a whole bunch of them up in Launceston today who are down helping us out. So it's been great to have their support. I've set an agenda for Labor. We've been very firm on what we believe in, what we stand for, very firm in our support for regional Tasmanian jobs. And we're hoping that stands us in good stead at this election.
As you said, 15 months since the last poll, we had Jack Milroy on the week of the tumultuous in the early aftermath of the no confidence motion. Just want to get your reflections on the strategy behind that and what you thought would happen and what transpired, and did they align? I know that certainly tactically when you're in opposition, there's not much you can do when you don't have the numbers, and the odd no confidence motion isn't a bad way just to galvanise, your caucus and get up there and, make an argument on the floor of Parliament. But it was more than that happened, obviously, and it essentially brought down a government or brought on an election. I mean, was that in your thinking when you first got together as a strategy team and worked out that you'll move that motion that particular day?
You think about all the options. I'll take it back to the start, I guess. So the Liberals won in minority back last year, 15 months ago. So they had to secure confidence supply agreements with the Jackie Lambie network. And, Jackie Lambie, she's synonymous with her stability. And so they signed one with Jackie Lambie and David O'Byrne, a former Labor Party leader, as well as Christy Johnston, who's another independent. So they had supply and confidence locked in. The Jackie Lambie network lasted, I think it was maybe 10 weeks or so before it imploded. As I said, a lot of stability there. And once they imploded, the expectation was that there'd be new supply and confidence agreements signed with various people, and they did have some, but never actually had the 18. It's a 35-seat House, never actually had the 18. So it was always going to be interesting to see what the Premier was doing. I was also surprised that he didn't spend more time making sure that the crossbench was on side. When it came down to it, though, we were providing the stability that Parliament needed. We had a view that it was important that we continued to back traditional jobs and Labor values, and we've done that in Parliament. The thing that really changed was the budget that came out back in late May. The budget showed the most extraordinary budget I've ever seen. I started my career working in Treasury and Finance. Tasmania, and these numbers won't seem very high to people in other states and territories, but $11 billion worth of net debt. When the Liberals came in 2014, there was no net debt in Tasmania. We had one of the strongest balance sheets in the country, taking us to the least to the worst, and cash deficits of almost $2 billion last financial year. And again, in Tasmanian context, these are extraordinary. You hear other states and territories have commentary around their budgets. Saul Estlake, leading economist, called it the worst budget in Australia. And so we raised these concerns around the budget, but also about their privatisation agenda. So the Premier put 16 different government businesses up for sale effectively through his process. So massive debt, selling Tasmanian assets like Tas Networks and Aurora, which is our energy system. And for people in other states and territories, you'd know that the sale of these assets in other states and territories has been a disaster. So all of those led us to say, we've got no confidence in this Premier. Of course we don't. We're the opposition. What opposition would have confidence? But the crossbench just straight away fell away from the Premier. People who previously signed confidence and supply agreements with the Liberals just said, I can't handle it anymore, didn't want to support it. And so they were the people that moved. And instead of just resigning as Premier, like most people I think expected Jeremy Rockliff to do, he went up to Government House and called an election.
Watching Rockliff's speech on the floor of the House after he'd lost the vote, after the Speaker had cast her deciding vote, in that moment, listening to his speech and listening to the words he was saying, did you think, where did you think it was going? Did you think that he was going to call an election and he would recontest as leader, or did you think that he would be in trouble with his own caucus? Because I felt that speech was a speech for Tasmanians, because I'm running again and I'm taking this state back to the polls again.
Well, it was a speech for his own caucus, because his own caucus was trying to roll him. So at the time, he had people like Erica Betts in his caucus. He had people trying to change the leadership of the Liberal Party, and it was pretty widely known in political circles that the numbers were being done on Jeremy Rockliff right up until the time that the governor gave the Premier an election. So that's what he was fighting. We went into this election campaign with his own team wanting to roll him as leader of the Liberal Party. It's been unstable within the Liberal Party caucus. It's been unstable in the crossbench, and it all goes back to Jeremy Rockliff and the way he manages people. There's one common denominator. We came into minority in the first place because two of his own team went to the crossbench. Then he called an early election. That was the 2024 one. And then in 2025, the crossbench that had previously signed confidence supply agreements walked away from him.
The recent poll that came out, I think it was from YouGov, it suggested that there's obviously a momentum shift towards Labor. So that's really positive. And I know it's hard to do with Hare Clark and work out sort of those remaining seats in this multi-seat electorate, where they would fall. But there was the YouGov poll was sort of predicting that it wouldn't be enough seats. Labor would lead in the seats won, but wouldn't be enough to form an outright majority for government, thus requiring you guys to enter into a minority government with the crossbench. Where does the party stand on forming government with minor parties, in particular the Greens?
Yeah, so the first thing is Hare Clark makes it really tough. I suspect, if I haven't looked at a two-party preferred saw a two-party preferred estimate from the last election that we lost, where we actually would have won. So Hare Clark's really challenging. You've got to make sure you've got a primary vote that can get you up to win seats, and you can't just rely on being on preferences from minor parties or Greens, because in Hare Clark they often get elected. We don't do deals with the Greens, and the reason is that firstly, what they're trying to do here in Tasmania is the polar opposite of what we're trying to do. We want to build more renewable energy, and my passion, if I could get one thing happening in Tasmania, it would be getting some of this new renewable energy generation. We just haven't been able to get anything actually happening. We should be the renewable energy leaders in the country. We've actually lost that status now to South Australia. We haven't had any new generation built in the state since 2020, and we've got traditional industries and manufacturers that are saying, in one case, a paper mill wants to turn off the coal boilers and move to electricity, but they can't do it because there isn't actually enough power in the state. And the Greens are opposed to renewable energy at the moment. They're opposed to offshore wind, Robbins Island, which is a big wind farm on the northwest coast, Whaleback Ridge on the west coast. So that's the sort of approach we're dealing with. And we want to govern as a Labor government. We won't do deals with the Greens. It's a position we've had for a long time. We want to be a strong Labor government with Labor values.
The Fed result in Tasmania was certainly for us mainlanders anyway, a complete shock. And I did those that listen to the show know full well that we did a podcast where we examined every marginal seat that was up for grabs across the entire federation, an episode that went for like 6 days. And when we got to Tasmania, we were not very optimistic about what, if we can hold Pat and Tassie, then that would be a great result. But in the end, on election night, Tasmania came home. Now, I'm just wondering, it would have been a great night for you guys. Like, are there lessons that you guys in your campaign are taking from why we picked up those seats in Tasmania? Because obviously, the way that your state parliament works, it's the same seats, just the multi-member. So, yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that without obviously giving too much away to your opponents.
Look, I mean, we've been inspired by Albo, and he's been down a couple of times during the campaign and campaigned with us. And the urgent care clinics down here have been so popular and successful, and they've really helped. We've got a hospital system here that's under so much stress, and you've got these urgent care clinics have come in and really taken that pressure off. And it's actually inspired one of our own policies called Tassie Doc, which the Prime Minister, were lucky enough to have him down early this week, talking about it alongside me. Our policy is to extend urgent care to the next level, which is the state stepping in to do primary or provide GP services that are fully bulk billed using the new Medicare reforms. So we've been inspired by their success, and we're hoping to replicate it. We've got some great members federally who have been campaigning hard for us.
You definitely are replicating. So I think I saw some footage during the weekend. You had the Medicare card out. You're pulling out that more times than Albo did, and that's a lot, given that he did a lot during the campaign. So if it's worked for him, it's clearly got to work for you as well down in Tasmania.
It's the same concept, I guess. It's about the universal healthcare is so important, and particularly here in Tasmania, I've met and spoken to people who've told me they don't go to see the doctor because they can't afford to. When bulk billing left one of the areas in my electorate down here in Franklin, I heard from the community house that they were worried about people's health, and they just said they're going to end up in emergency. They just can't. They can't afford to pay the doctor. So providing that level of support in the first place through our own state-run bulk billing clinics, obviously it's supported through Medicare and new bulk billing initiatives, but it's really good Labor policy, progressive policy that supports the people who need it most.
So obviously health's one of the key areas that you're going to be focusing on, and looking at a lot of your campaign material, you definitely are honing in on that. What other issues that do you think are going to be at the forefront of the minds of Tasmanians when they go into vote next Saturday?
Look, the election was called on three things. It was called on the budget, and what I spoke about earlier being the absolute horror budget that was, and the financial management of the Liberals. Their privatisation agenda, that Jeremy Rockliff said, I believe in privatisation and I'm not going to drop it. And then as soon as the election was called, he said he dropped it. So we'll see if people believe it or not. And the other one is the Spirits of Tasmania fiasco, which I'm not sure how many people in the mainland know about this, but they bought $1 billion worth of new ferries and then forgot to build a berth for it to operate from. So we've got these two new ships. One's actually on the west coast of Africa at the moment. One's still in Finland, and another one of our existing ones, is off on the way to Singapore. Just a complete catastrophe. The biggest infrastructure stuff up in Tasmanian history and possibly Australia. It's cost us hundreds of millions of dollars so far. It's a total fiasco, and it's a pretty damning evidence of a government that isn't very good at managing projects.
My partner and I were down in your wonderful state over the summer holidays for 2 weeks, and brought the car across on said Spirit of Tasmania. and spent a lot of time driving down the East Coast. And, both of us are in politics, so a lot of the time we're talking about the state of the Tasmanian economy. Obviously, you've got a strong economic background. I'm interested to get a sense of what is the state of answer this question for me, because this is something we couldn't wrap our heads around about, what is the state of the Tasmanian economy after however many years of the Liberal government? Where do you see the strengths lie within the Tasmanian economy? Where have the Tories made missteps that has sent the economy into a state that you just mentioned before, where Saul Eastlake saying it's one of the worst budgets in the country?
Yeah, there's a few things. The big challenge we've got is an ageing population. So a plane load of young Tasmanians is leaving every 4 days on average, and they're going typically to Melbourne and other places. We've had a campaign effectively by a few people against the University of Tasmania, our only university, that's been going on for a couple of years, and I think that's really contributed to young people wanting to leave or feeling they've got better tertiary education options on the mainland. Our wages are still 20% lower than the national average, so for a young Tasmanian looking to build their life at the moment, they're making choices to go to the mainland, and where they used to be able to offset that with a lower cost of living. Rents and the cost of housing, cost of everything has gone up now to basically the equivalent of the mainland. So you're getting paid less, your costs are just as high, and you've got universities at the moment out of Melbourne literally flying young Tasmanians, paying for flights and accommodation to go and see the university. So we've got to change that. We've announced policies around particularly around housing and planning reform. I've been really impressed with what Chris Minns has been doing in New South Wales and the effort that they've been going to try and get Sydney moving when it comes to planning, getting some of those big developments going. We've been inspired by Peter Malinowskis as well in terms of what Renew SA is doing over there. So we've taken some of the housing policies from other states to try and get Tasmania building again. We've got the lowest building approvals, I think, since 2016, last time I checked. So building approvals are down, housing costs are high, young Tasmanians are leaving. And the challenge for me, I think, and the thing that I'm most passionate about is getting more young Tasmanians to choose to stay, but also attracting more young Australians and people from all over the world to come and see what we love about it. We're here because we love Tasmania, and more people are seeing that in a tourism sense. It's about getting people that are young and productive to come down. We don't want to be a retirement village for the rest of the country. We want young people to be here and have a vibrant lifestyle. You've got incredible wilderness. You've got great culture. We're going to have an AFL team soon. There's a lot to look forward to and a lot to like about Tasmania. So it gets about trying to build up some of that momentum. Again, Peter Malinowskis in South Australia. Every time I see what they're doing over there, it just looks exciting and it looks like a place you want to be. And like I said, growing up with Jim Bacon when he was the Labor Premier here, that's the feeling you got. So about trying to be positive about the state's future, implement policies that help young people, that help grow our economy.
You've proposed a budget repair plan resulting in, is it $1 billion in savings? Yeah. How I'm interested to get a sense of where you're going to find those savings.
So it looks challenging finding that sort of saving. You get the Tasmanian budget; those numbers probably don't seem high to people in other states, but that's challenging. We've looked that the Liberals have added huge numbers into senior public servant roles. So we've said we'll abolish those really senior roles. They've created this new role called Associate Secretary of Departments. We've outlined a particular infrastructure project that costs a lot of money that we would scrap. But we've also announced a roundtable. We believe that the best way to deal with Tasmania's budget challenge is together, and we managed to get the business community, our unions and our community sector to sign up to a budget repair roundtable. So working together to try and find a way through this. The Tasmanian budget is unsustainable the way it is. There's no acknowledgement from government, from the Liberals that it is. So it's going to be a big repair task. But the longer we wait before the repair takes, the harder the decisions are going to be. So it's about trying to find savings initially and then work together to get ourselves out of the mess the Liberals have created after 11 years.
You mentioned before about cost of living, and obviously it was an election issue that dominated the Fed in May as well. It's been a major focus of your campaign. How do you balance the responsible economic policy with a cost of living relief for Tasmanians?
It's tough because, you know, you want to help. When our people, we're the Labor Party, so we door knock and we love it. And when you hear people you're talking to, they're under real stress. Talking to people who have stopped buying meat because they can't afford the bills. Their number one issue in a lot of cases is cost of living. But we're also, so we're in a state budget crisis and we're in a household cost of living crisis. So we approach this with particular policy, I guess, is around power prices. Tasmania still owns our electricity assets, which is a really positive thing that we've done, and it was Labor that saved hydro from being sold by the Liberals in 1998. But what happened a few years ago when coal and gas prices went up on the mainland was that Tasmanians paid an extra 22% on their power bills, and no one could figure it out. Why are we paying? We own the assets. We use hydroelectricity down here and wind. So why are we paying more? And so our policy around this is to cap power price rises at 2.5%. There's acknowledgement here our prices of generation isn't going to go up by much. So next time coal and gas goes up, it shouldn't be us paying. It shouldn't be Tasmanians paying. That's to give some protection for households. We've also outlined kids' sport vouchers, which is not just cost of living, but also about preventative health. We believe, and again, having met too many young people that don't play sport because they can't afford it. So vouchers for kids' sport to get more kids more active, helping with long-term preventative health and a cost of living support for mums and dads.
I found it interesting the other day. I just want to get your reflections on this. Claire O'Neill, in an interview on the ABC, was talking about how there's so much red tape, and you just name-checked it before as well, right? In trying to build more homes. I mean, do you share that same feeling with the housing minister as well? Like, I mean, how are you going to try and cut a lot of this red tape so folks can actually start to build homes?
Well, it's crazy. Like and I don't think it's unique to Tasmania, though. I suspect it's worse in Tasmania. Building approvals are low because it's just so hard to get anything done. And I guess Tasmania is synonymous with, unfortunately, saying no to a lot of things. But even just the act of building your own home is too hard. So we've outlined a couple of things that we'll work with the building industry to cut a whole bunch of discretions out of the planning scheme that are triggered and trigger long battles with councils and big, long, expensive reports as part of the planning reform, but also Renew Tasmania, which again is based on a South Australian model, Renew SA, and that's to de-risk new development. It's to grab hold of public land, work with the private sector to de-risk new subdivisions and medium density development. Use that to get things started, coordinate the headworks and things like water and sewerage and power to actually get a few things started. We just haven't had the level of building construction here in the last few years that we need, considering we're still in a housing crisis, but yet we don't have any response. It's just too hard to get anything built.
I mean, you're a former mayor as well, so you've done the local government level as well as state. And I just noticed in recent times there's a lot of finger pointing between various levels of government towards each other, saying you're the reason why we can't get things built, and you're the reason planning approvals and stuff. I mean,
it's the state, like it is the states. And in our case, the councils are given a planning scheme by the state. Now, I know it's different in different states and territories, but the state sets the planning scheme, which sets the rules, and councils, though sometimes they're a bit frustrating in the way they administer the rules, but the rules are set by the state, and the state should make them easier to build. It is too difficult, and there are councils that are difficult to deal with, and here in Hobart, the city of Hobart has been a very difficult council to deal with. But ultimately, you need to have planning rules that work. The Liberals, when they were elected here in 2014, said we'd have a single statewide planning scheme that would make things faster, simpler, cheaper, fairer to build, and we still don't have one 11 years later. So it's difficult, it's challenging, but we've got to get it done and make it simpler for people to be able to get it. Mums and dads building their first home, you shouldn't need to have an army of consultants to build a home. It should be made easier.
You mentioned before about the Greens who are are no longer pro renewable energy in Tasmania, and the offshore wind farm thing absolutely baffles me. You're going to have to tell me more about why they're against that. But I just want to get a sense of what Labor's position is when it comes to investing in renewable energy in Tasmania, and why are the Greens political party opposing offshore wind?
Well, particularly Robins Island has been the big hot button issue. 1 gig of new energy generation into the grid basically adds another third to our generation, and it allows a whole bunch of new manufacturing to go ahead. Look, they cite environmental issues, and I get it, but ultimately, if we're in a climate change crisis, and I think we are, then shouldn't we be doing everything we can to put more renewable energy into the grid to help turn off coal and gas? I feel like that's pretty basic environmentalism. That's Tasmania's superpower. We've been doing it for 100 years. The hydroelectric schemes were built 100 years ago are still going strong. We've got the expertise. We've got the power, literally. We've got the engineering. Marinus that federal Labor is strongly backing through Chris Bowen's work and his program's $20 billion investment in the poles and wires is going to be a huge opportunity for this state. But again, that's 11 years old as well as a proposal. They were talking about that 11 years ago and it still haven't had anything done. Or admittedly, they were dealing with Scott Morrison and the Liberals, the coalition federally that didn't believe in climate change for a lot of it. But it's now been 3 years since we've had federal Labor on board, and Tasmania's still holding out on signing the final deal to get moving on it.
From a campaign perspective, I'm interested to get your thoughts on, particularly in Tasmania because of Hare Clark, and also the expansion of your parliament to 35 seats now, which means that you're going to throw up a whole bunch of new hairy-looking different types of independent MPs or maybe some more Greens. And as you said at the top of the episode, you're not going to do a deal with the Greens. And obviously in the campaign, it's a Labor Liberal contest. So, in your campaign communication, you're both making an argument for why you should vote for Labor, but also why you shouldn't vote for the other side. What about the Greens? Is there a strategy there to hold the Greens accountable for some of their Fruit Loop policies that no one really knows about? And if they did know about it, they probably wouldn't vote for them and do a bit of damage on that. Because I think that's something that I took away from the most recent federal campaign was that this time around, people started to actually have a real look at the Greens and what policies they were taking to the electorate. And there was a mix of jadedness and the shine had gone off them, as well as, some voters who had been historically Green voters were going, you're just taking the piss now. Like, you're literally just making up policies that you think are just, they'll never ever happen. Like, 50-cent bus fares, that kind of stuff. You're never going to be in power and you're never going to deliver them. So I think that accountability started to happen to them. And I'm interested in, say, from a campaign perspective in Tasmania, are you guys sort of also saying to voters, hey, these guys are nuts and you shouldn't waste your vote on them either?
Look, it could be famous last words, but I haven't heard a lot of people talking about the Greens this election. It's more about independence. We've got the branding down here. We don't so much have the teals, but we've got Greens who call themselves independents. People like Peter George, who was rumoured to be a bit of a chance to beat Julie Collins in Franklin, but came nowhere near. But all of his policies are green. There's nothing different between him and the Greens, except it might be a little bit more extreme. His latest policy appears to try and stop recreational fishing. People like Christy Johnston, who's sort of branded as teal in the electorate of Clark, but again, I can't find a single thing different between her and the Greens. I think last time someone told me it's about 95% of the time votes with the Greens. And people like Craig Garland on the northwest coast, who has a few different views than the Greens, but the sort of people that get away with espousing or voting with Greens, but using the independent branding, which is obviously internationally pretty strong at the moment. People are liking independence for whatever reason. So the real challenge has been to people with this election is if you want to change the government, you actually have to vote Labor. Voting independent or Green doesn't work. Last election, for example, the Liberals only won 14 seats out of 35, but they did deals with progressive independents. So David O'Byrne, former leader of the Labor Party, did a deal with the Liberals to help them form government. Christy Johnston, a progressive former Labor Party member, did a deal with the Greens, and obviously the Jackie Lambie network that had campaigned against the Liberals did deals. So the only way to guarantee to get rid of a 11-year-old Liberal government and give Tasmania a fresh start is to vote Labor. That's the campaign message has to be that really strong in the last week of this campaign.
Great segue into what this last week looks like. I think you've got a campaign launch and a debate on Sunday. Is that right?
We've got the campaign rally is on Sunday, and looking forward to that. And then we've got the Sky News debate on Wednesday. We've only had one debate that Jeremy Rockliff has been avoiding. He doesn't do our morning ABC mornings down here statewide is Leon Compton, and he refuses to go on. We were invited to do debates with both the Launceston Chamber of Commerce and the Tasmanian Chamber, and we said yes, and we never heard anything back. So I'm not sure if that means the Premier also said no to those debates. So we've only got one. That's with Sky, and they're always very helpful to Labor, aren't they? They're always very fair and balanced. So but I'm actually looking forward to it. I can't wait, actually. I haven't done a debate before like that, obviously debating in Parliament all the time, but I'm really, really looking forward to the challenge and taking up the contest of ideas in an environment like that.
And what do they call it? The People's Choice or the People's Forum or something? So it's chock full of members of the Liberal Party kind of.
Well, apparently I don't think there is an audience in this one. So I'm a bit disappointed about that. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's the only debate I'm going to get, and I would have done 10 if I could have. But I've just got one, and it's on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to the challenge of and the experience of doing it, but also, like I said, just taking it up, putting some good Labor policies up, outlining the failings of this government and the opportunities in front of us for people to vote Labor.
And then what else is going to be the focus for the rest of the week, all the way up till Election Day?
Oh, look, health's still a big one, but it's still those things that the election, the no confidence motion right at the start of this campaign was on budget management, it's on the privatisation agenda, and it was on the leaving the spirits of Tasmania on the wrong side of the world. So we'll revisit and remind people of the failings of the government after 11 years, as you'd expect us to, but also outline those positive plans around health. It's been a big one, cost of living support, housing. They're things we're passionate about, and looking forward to, again, just prosecuting a case for change.
The other weird thing that I need to let all the mainlanders know is with Hare Clark, the way that they have the ballot papers, there's no need for how to vote. So no one hands out on Election Day. It's
the greatest thing ever. You should all try it. You should have just done it. It's so good.
What do you do all day? You must be sitting with fidgety fingers.
You should all, anyone I know there's a lot of fellow political geeks listening, but you should all lobby a local MP, or if you are a local MP, ban handing out how to vote cards to everyone. And it's a nil-all draw for everyone, and you can go hang out with your kids, go have a beer with your mates, remind your partner or loved one who you are, and have a little snooze in the afternoon and get ready for election night. It's great.
Wonderful. Well, see, what annoys me is I can't be a campaign tourist. I love to be a campaign tourist.
Hey, we still have the tally room though, so we're still the only place that's got a tally room. And I believe that if Anthony Green had known there was going to be another Tasmanian election, he would have held on a little bit longer to come back for our tally room. So we've still got, the political parties have got their election night functions in the same venue. We've got a single tally room in the middle, even though there's no actual tallying. We've got the broadcasters in the room, and when the leaders come out, it's not to their own people, it's to a mix of Green, Liberal, Labor people. So you get a mix of cheers and boos and jeers, and it's a truly magnificent Tasmanian democratic experience that will be nerve-wracking for me, but as a former non-participant political geek, it's a great night. You should come down and volunteer for us for a few days first, and then come and enjoy our election night.
It may be on the cards. It may be on the cards. I must admit, when I was talking to Jack Milroy in the show when we did the Tassie elections last time, the tally room was attractive. I like the idea of the tally room. That's pretty nostalgic. It feels like Bob Hawke 83. Remember, it was him and Hazel hanging up from some raft and waving everyone. That was
And
that's
then
what I'm
putting the physical number counts, up on or writing it up on the wall for people to see the numbers as they came in. It's. I don't know how it's still hanging on. The rumours of its demise continue and persist, but long live the tally room in Tasmanian politics.
Indeed, absolutely. But last couple of easy questions, just to actually kind of get a sense. I've heard you're a bit of a podcast nerd. What do you listen to at the moment to sort of chill you out in between doing all the campaign stuff? Well,
so I'm still a political nerd. But I listen to US politics, The Rest is Politics, and Pod Save America, and probably a few others, because it reminds me that we live in such an incredible place. And, I'm talking about, things are really important to me and to our state. But I was doing a press conference with the Prime Minister the other day, and he's getting asked about, the Middle East and US politics, and it's so scary what's happening over there, and it's just nice to be reminded that through all the chaos of Trump and the Middle East, we live in a really safe, a great country, great state, and we just got to make it as good as we possibly can.
Indeed. Those that are listening that are in Tasmania and haven't volunteered their time, how do they go about signing up for a door knock shift or a phone bank shift?
taslabor.org.au. Donate buttons on the front page. We would love to have more people here. And we've got some, like I said, I've met some great people just today, really enthusiastic South Australians, some New South Wales. I think there's some Victorians coming down tomorrow. So for the last week, all young people, and, love their politics and love winning government for progressive parties. So, come along, and if you can't come along, there's a donate button there too. That's very helpful for us. The Liberals are absolutely plastering the place with ads at the moment. So like one I've just seen before I came on the podcast, just complete and utter lies. Donations are helpful. We'd love it. Volunteering is great. We'd love to have your company, and we guarantee you'll have a great time here as well.
Think of it this way, folks. Imagine if you could hang out with a Tasmanian once a week and shout him a coffee, just one coffee every week. That's like $6.50. There are 24 weeks left in the year. Instead of paying for that coffee for that Tasmanian, why don't you just donate that money to the campaign? So that's $156. Just $156 to the campaign. Now, even if, I'm just doing some maths here. Ooh, actually, that's quite a lot. I was going to say, there's a couple of thousand people listen to the show each week. Even if 1,000 of them donated, there's $156,000 into the Tasmanian coffers right there. That'll take care of a bit of digital advertising for the final week when people go and vote. So please go to that website. We'll also put it in the show notes. Click on that link, go to the donate button, and donate $156 to the Tasmanian Labor Party. We're going to do it, and I encourage everyone else out there to do it as well. There's no other campaigns to donate to until South Australia in March next year, which is 9 months away. So where else are you going to send your hard-earned dollars to donate to the Labor Party? So cash on in and give some money to Dean and the team in Tasmania. $156 would be great. If you can't do $156, whatever you got, just send some money their way, and they can pump that into some digital advertising.
Thank you. We'll spend it very wisely.
Absolutely. Oh, they will definitely spend it wisely. Indeed, they will. Dean, thank you so much for your time this evening, for coming on the show. Best of luck with the final week. Best of luck with election day itself, and I hope you and the party get over the line.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Hey, Social Democrats. Thanks for listening. Today's episode was hosted by myself, Stephen Donnelly, and produced by Grace Eyre. If you like the show, please rate us and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And finally, get all the latest updates and bonus content by following Socially Democratic on our social media channels. The links are in our show notes. See you next Friday.